when you don't have the best standards in who you're hiring, it means on the one hand, you're not getting the best people.
What if I told you Donald Trump just got brutally betrayed by his own vice president? Yep, JD Vance apparently put down the MAGA pom-poms and picked up a dagger, figuratively. Of course, unless leaked texts count as a crime scene. In this report, we dive into the juicy backstabbing betrayal that is Trump fuming, Truth Social melting, and JD Vance pretending it's all taken out of context. Spoiler, it's not. Stick around because this political soap opera just went full Shakespearean. Donald Trump's administration has been defined by screw-ups and scandals. And two of the biggest screw-ups in his administration, JD Vance and Mike Waltz, are responsible for one of the biggest scandals. Of course, I'm talking about Signalgate, the very reason that Mike Waltz was relieved of his duties or given the stanky boot today. And if you thought that they couldn't find a way to screw this up anymore on a day in which so much attention has been paid to Signalgate, you're wrong, because texts between JD Vance and Mike Waltz just leaked in a humiliating new problem for Donald Trump that we are going to get into. Donald Trump waking up to betrayal is kind of like watching a cartoon. Character realize they've stepped on a rake again and again and again. This time, the rake wielder is none other than JD Vance, the man Trump once lifted out of political obscurity like a MAGA-themed fairy godmother, granting a wish to a particularly confused pumpkin. Yes, that JD Vance, the man who performed the political equivalent of a full-body MAGA tattoo to get into Trump's good graces. The one who morphed from a Trump-hating book-writing elitist into a red hat-wearing, rally-clapping sidekick who seemed just a few campaign stops away from legally changing his name to Donald Jr. too. And now leaked texts are doing what no liberal late-night host or federal indictment ever could, making Trump look like the world's most gullible kingmaker. Picture this: Trump reclining in his Mar-a-Lago lair, Diet Coke in one hand, phone in the other, about to rage tweet something misspelled about windmills when suddenly, bam, screenshots, glorious, devastating screenshots, JD Vance, the chosen one, the hand-picked VP in waiting, allegedly mocking Trump's never-ending legal circus, eye-rolling the 2020 election tantrums, and calling the whole MAGA entourage a group project from hell. You can almost hear the scream echo across the Florida swampland. Of course, this isn't JD Vance's first personality swap. Remember, this is the guy who spent 2016 practically writing think pieces on why Trump was a danger to democracy, then emerged in 2022 acting like he'd been baptized in Mar-a-Lago's fountain. One second he's calling Trump everything but a political parasite. The next he's groveling on Steve Bannon's podcast, like it's the world's most desperate job interview. Trump, never one to resist a good ego massage, forgave it all. The disses, the criticisms, the disdain, it all vanished with one campaign stop and a few flattery-laden tweets. Trump crowned him Ohio's golden boy and later, rumor has it, named him the heir to the MAGA throne because nothing screams solid judgment like handing your political legacy to a man whose loyalty is flimsier than a Truth Social server. But the thing about Faustian bargains is eventually the bill comes due. And this one came in the form of text messages so brutally two-faced, they make Game of Thrones betrayals look like misunderstandings over brunch reservations. And the MAGA base? Well, let's just say Vance didn't exactly paint them as the Mensa crowd. All this while Trump was proudly parading Vance around as his MAGA mini-me. And the timing? These texts are allegedly dated after Trump reportedly floated him as his VP pick. So, not only did Vance get his golden MAGA ticket punch, he did it while metaphorically writing, "Lol, this guy," behind Trump's back. You almost have to admire the hustle. Almost. The fallout, of course, has been delicious. Trump allies are now tripping over themselves, trying to figure out whether to defend Vance, destroy him, or pretend they never knew him. Fox News went from praising him as a genius hillbilly whisperer to quietly pretending he doesn't exist. Conservative Twitter is in full meltdown mode, half of them screaming traitor and the other half whispering okay. But he's not wrong. And JD Vance? Oh, he's suddenly become a professional gymnast, twisting himself into rhetorical pretzels, trying to explain the texts without admitting they're real. Because when in doubt, scream fake news and hope the headlines go away faster than your political integrity. Let's be clear, Vance isn't the first Trump lackey to see the light a little too late. There's a long line of former sycophants who realized somewhere between Indictment 3 and Meltdown to 174 that tying yourself to Trump is a bit like handcuffing yourself to a dumpster fire and hoping for air conditioning. But Vance had something special. He knew better. He literally wrote the book on knowing better, and still, he dove headfirst into MAGA madness like it was the last lifeboat off the Titanic. Now that it's sinking, he's conveniently packing his reputation into a dinghy, made of plausible deniability. It's almost Shakespearean. Trump, the blustering king, undone not by enemies, not by liberals, not even by prosecutors, but by his own court jester turned Brutus at 2 a.m. Meanwhile, MAGA world is left trying to spin this like it's a win. Some claim the texts prove Vance is independent-minded. Others insist it shows he's strategically nuanced because nothing says strength, like gossiping about your boss behind his back while smiling in photos and holding his Diet Coke. Trump, of course, has remained relatively quiet by Trump's standards, which means only a few all-caps tantrums and a vague threat about loyalty tests. Sources say he's considering alternative VP picks now, because what's more stable than reshuffling your presidential ticket? Based on who insulted you the least this week, names like Carrie Lake, Elise Stefanik, and even Tucker Carlson are allegedly being floated. Yes, we've reached the point where a man who spreads Kremlin talking points on live television is now considered a more trustworthy running mate than JD Vance. The bar has not just been lowered. It's now underground, sharing a room with Rudy Giuliani's last brain cell. And poor JD is still out there trying to pretend like this is all normal. At this point, he's one press conference away from claiming aliens forged the screenshots. And yet, deep down, you know Trump is stewing. The man who demands loyalty like oxygen now finds himself betrayed by the very puppet he molded. It's poetic, it's tragic, it's peak reality TV presidency, and the best part, it's entirely self-inflicted because Trump could have picked anyone. Literally anyone. And he picked the guy who once said putting Trump in the White House would be a disaster, then pretended he didn't mean it, then got caught saying it all over again, just in more colorful language. The lesson here, maybe don't base your political future on the loyalty of a man who changes opinions faster than Elon Musk buys failing companies. Republicans are now in a bind. Do they cling to JD Vance, hoping the scandal fades faster than Trump's spray tan under studio lights? Or do they toss him overboard and pray someone less radioactive floats by? Either way, the damage is done. Trump looks weak, Vance looks two-faced, and the GOP looks like a sitcom about a circus being run by the elephants. And somewhere, quietly smirking in a leather chair, Mitt Romney is whispering, "Told you so." The irony in all this is that Trump's entire political brand is built on betrayal. He ditches people like old Sox Jeff Sessions, Michael Cohen, Steve Bannon, the MyPillow guy. Okay, maybe not him, but still, loyalty is a one-way street in Trump world, paved with broken promises and non-disclosure agreements. So, the fact that Trump is now on the receiving end of JD Vance's betrayal isn't just about one man. It symbolizes a broader shift happening within the GOP. The post-Trump era isn't coming. It's already here, and it's coming in the form of fake smiles, passive-aggressive texts, and politicians trying to quietly tiptoe away from the man-child tantruming in the corner. These Republicans want Trump's base, but not his baggage. They want the votes without the investigations, the rallies without the rioting. But they can't have it both ways. And JD Vance just learned that the hard way. And this, folks, is why the JD Vance backstab isn't just some petty text leak drama cooked up by political gossip blogs and Twitter doom scrollers. Oh no, this is a Category 5 political hurricane aimed squarely at the house Trump built, complete with golden toilets and loyalty oaths. Here's the thing, Trump's entire persona is stitched together, with one thread: absolute cult-level loyalty. Not policy, not ideology, not competence, obviously, but pure groveling, boot-licking loyalty. And now his own vice president pick just took a flamethrower to that central pillar. This isn't just a scandal. This is ideological heresy in MAGA land. A betrayal so blasphemous it might as well have been delivered in a Starbucks cup, with pronouns on it. For years, Trump has played emperor. His court filled with sycophants who dare not blink without Mar-a-Lago approval. He built a reality show, White House, demanded blind allegiance, and booted anyone with a hint of independence. Jeff Sessions, excommunicated. John Bolton, booted. Mike Pence practically needed Secret Service just to avoid being hanged by Trump's most devoted fans. But JD Vance, he wasn't supposed to be another Pence. He was handpicked, factory fresh, and MAGA certified, at least until he opened his mouth in private. This leak isn't just humiliating, it's historic. The vice presidential pick openly mocking the very man whose name is tattooed across the Republican base's frontal lobe. That's not just betrayal. It's a seismic crack in the foundation. It reveals a new GOP species, the post-Trump survivalists. Politicians who smile in public, kiss the ring, and then scream into their group chats about how insane the whole circus really is. What's worse and funnier is that it lays bare the full-blown identity crisis within the Republican Party. These people want the MAGA voters, the fundraising machine, the rage clicks. But they also want plausible deniability when the Trump Titanic finally rams its last iceberg. So now GOP insiders are attempting the political equivalent of walking backward out of a room, while still nodding vigorously at the cult leader in the corner. JD Vance went from Trump is destroying democracy to, "Sir, I'll retweet anything you want. Just say the word. Now." Surprise! Turns out the guy who called Trump a cultural heroin addict in 2016 wasn't entirely reformed. It's like watching someone adopt a lion, dress it in a MAGA hat, pretend it's a kitten for years, and then act stunned when it mauls them during a campaign stop. And Trump, the man whose ego is so fragile it's held together with Aquanet and Diet Coke, he hired a guy who openly loathed him. That's like casting a pyromaniac as your fire marshal and being shocked when the house burns down. Trump wanted loyalty, but he also wanted Ivy League polish. And JD gave him both until those Ivy League thumbs let loose in that group chat and torched the entire operation. So now we're left with a VP pick under fire, a party in chaos, and the president wondering if he can sue someone for emotional damage caused by group chats. Maybe next time Trump will use a background check that includes can this person go 6 months without secretly trashing me over text? Or maybe he'll just choose a running mate based on vibes and a loyalty handshake over cheeseburgers again. And if you thought this betrayal was juicy, just wait until the next round of leaks. Because if JD Vance is texting like a middle school mean girl, imagine what the rest of Trump's inner circle is saying when the cameras aren't rolling. That's not just betrayal. That's political artistry. So now the question hanging in the humid Mar-a-Lago air. Does Trump drop JD Vance like a tray of cold McNuggets? Because if there's one thing Trump loves more than loyalty, it's public revenge. And JD just handed him a golden excuse. But maybe Trump won't say a word. Maybe he's crafting the ultimate truth social emoji breakup right now and waiting for just the right moment to post it with a cryptic. Some people just don't know how to win. One thing's for sure, this isn't just one broken VP bromance. It's the early warning siren of a GOP implosion. The party's starting to eat itself, as the fallout continues from the disastrous text message revealed from the Trump cabinet this week. One thing that probably needs a closer look, and I'm sure Donald Trump himself is giving it a closer look, is the fact that in those messages, his own vice president attempted to block his military action in Yemen. And to his full credit, JD Vance was actually the voice of reason. When confronted by Fox's Brett Baier about all the things JD Vance said about Donald Trump, the VP was caught in a moment of pure political whiplash. This is the same JD Vance who once boldly declared, "My biggest problem with Trump, and there are many things to pick out, but my biggest problem with Trump is that his message to the right, especially the white working class of which I came from, is anti-conservative, and in some ways anti-American." Yet there he was on Fox News, attempting to spin a narrative that he was actually some kind of MAGA true believer all along. It was political gymnastics. That would make Simone Biles dizzy twisting from Trump as a really bad person in private. Text 2, I think you can make a good argument that it's a promotion. When discussing the ousting of fellow text chain member Mike Waltz, the scandal, now dubbed Signalgate, has exposed not just the VP's duplicity, but the staggering incompetence of an administration that accidentally added a journalist to a Signal chat about military operations. It's so incredibly insecure, it's almost laughable. But it's not laughable, it's dangerous. And at the center of this perfect storm of incompetence and disloyalty stands JD Vance, the man who went from calling Trump cultural heroin to becoming his most enthusiastic enabler. The leaked texts have sent shockwaves through Republican circles, with party insiders scrambling to contain the damage. Some are arguing that the texts show Vance's independence, while others are quietly admitting what everyone already suspected. Half the Trump administration is just pretending to believe in MAGA while rolling their eyes. Behind closed doors, when asked about the economy tanking under his watch, Vance couldn't even maintain message discipline, instead defaulting to the tired it's your fault playbook. This came after Trump had previously claimed ownership of the stock market gains under Biden, only to suddenly discover that the economy was inherited when it started showing signs of trouble. It's a rhetorical shell game that even the most devoted followers are starting to see through. The most delicious irony, of course, is that Trump, the master of disloyalty, now finds himself on the receiving end of the very behavior he's perfected. This is a man who discards allies like empty fast food containers, who demands fealty while offering none in return. Now he's experiencing what so many before him have felt, the cold sting of betrayal. From someone he foolishly trusted, JD Vance was supposed to be different. He was the polished, Yale-educated convert to the cause, the living proof that even the most vocal critics could be brought into the MAGA fold. Instead, he's become Exhibit A in the case against Trump's judgment, a man whose loyalty extends precisely as far as his political ambitions and not 1 inch further. The fallout from this scandal reaches far beyond just one betrayed president and his duplicitous VP. It exposes the rotting foundation of the entire MAGA movement, a political edifice, built not on shared principles or coherent ideology, but on personal loyalty to a man who inspires none in return. This is a movement eating itself from the inside out, with ambitious figures like Vance already positioning themselves for the post-Trump landscape, even while publicly genuflecting to the man himself. What's truly remarkable is how predictable this all was. JD Vance didn't suddenly develop his contempt for Trump overnight. He expressed it clearly and repeatedly before his political conversion. The warning signs were there in flashing neon, and yet Trump, blinded by vanity and the seductive power of flattery, invited the fox into the henhouse anyway. Now he's shocked to discover that the fox is still a fox. Republican voters are left with the disorienting realization that their leaders may not actually believe the very things they're being asked to believe. It's a crisis of faith that threatens the very core of the movement. If JD Vance, the poster child for MAGA conversion, is secretly mocking Trump in private chats, who else is playing the same game? How many other Republican leaders are simply going through the motions, waiting for the moment they can shed their MAGA skin and emerge in whatever new form Republican politics takes after Trump? That's the real damage of Textgate. Not just one betrayed ego or one wounded political partnership, but the shattering of the illusion that MAGA was ever more than a personality cult, built around a man whose judgment is so poor he couldn't even spot an obvious fraud in his own inner circle. As we watch this soap opera unfold, it's worth remembering that these are the people currently running our government, while they're busy stabbing each other in the back and leaking embarrassing text messages. Actual governance has taken a back seat to palace intrigue. The stock market is tanking, international tensions are rising, and the American people are caught in the crossfire of this dysfunctional political marriage. JD Vance likely thought his text would remain private, a safe space to vent his true feelings, while maintaining his public MAGA persona. Now that the mask has slipped, he joins a long list of Trump allies who discovered too late that proximity to this presidency comes with a steep and often public price. From Cohen to Comey, Sessions to Scaramucci, the Trump political graveyard is filled with those who thought they could manage the unmanageable, only to find themselves discarded when they were no longer useful.
People who come in here, whether legally or illegally,
the betting markets are not in his
plan
favor. Trump has demonstrated time and again that he values loyalty above all else, not competence, not experience, not even political advantage. And JD Vance has now proven himself spectacularly disloyal. The only question remaining is whether Trump will act immediately or bide his time, waiting for the perfect moment to exact his revenge. Meanwhile, the American people are treated to yet another episode of this exhausting political reality show, where principles are flexible, loyalty is performative, and the only consistent element is chaos. The JD Vance betrayal isn't just a scandal. It's a perfect microcosm of the entire Trump-era time when nothing is what it seems. No one says what they mean, and everyone is always looking out for number one. As one Republican strategist put it, speaking on condition of anonymity, this is what happens when you build a movement on personality rather than principle. Today it's JD Vance getting caught saying what he really thinks. Tomorrow it'll be someone else. The whole house of cards is starting to wobble.